Association, which he will be addressing some of the newest research on dental problems with head and neck cancer patients. And if anybody would like to join our group, we do have some international members, and we have people from all over the US, even though we're in Colorado. You can just email me and I will send you the Zoom link.
Now, what
because
time
we
is
have
9
a
a.m.?
number of
Yeah. No,
9 a.m.
that sounds,
what we call
yeah.
Mountain Standard Time, which is
What's that in English?
earlier in the afternoon for you.
Okay, no, that sounds really useful. I think I might do that. Right. So today we have Grace Hammond. You want to give us a wave, Grace? Give us a wave, Grace. Hello.
Hello.
That's it. Perfect. Now, Grace is a registered nutritional therapist, and I'm sure we've all had issues with our food as a result of the various journeys that we've been on. So I'm sure she's going to give us some interesting overview as to what we can do about the various issues that we've got. So Grace is part of Go Live Well. So I'll hand over to Grace. If you'd like to just introduce yourself and off you go. I think you've got some slides as well, haven't you?
Yes, I'll share my screen. See if the IT beats me now.
Yep. Thank you.
Share. Okay, can everybody see?
Yep.
A colourful presentation. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, great.
We see Chris.
So as Chris said, I'm. Can you hear me?
Yep, we can. Yep.
Can everybody hear me okay? My internet's a bit sketchy today for some reason. Yeah, okay, great. I think actually I'll just make, if it drops out and you lose me, I'll log back in. Okay. So just bear with me if it happens.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so so thanks for the introduction, Chris. So yeah, I'm Grace, a registered nutritional therapist. I retrained from a career in HR and management about 2 years ago and qualified last year. I won't tell you my own story because it's a sort of story for the day, but my own health issues sort of necessitated me needing more than just the medical profession. Was struggling to get so essentially when I found the help that I retrained to provide that support to others. So Chris
I think you are.
Was asking me to come along today and share some general information about how nutrition could sort of. Oh, have you lost me?
Yeah, it went off a couple of times.
Can you hear me, Chris?
Yeah, I can hear you now, but it did
okay.
talk a little bit. So
am I back?
I can hear it.
Yeah, plow on.
Okay. Okay, great. I'll try. So the guys have just asked me to come along today and just share some information about nutrition and how it may be able to sort of complement the other therapies that you have. Got to do my disclaimer, so that would be very inappropriate for me to do because I don't know anybody's case history. It's just educational purposes. That's what that's saying. And of course, you know, if you're going to change anything in diet and lifestyle, just check with your team first because we've got to be careful. And in terms of the context in which this is all given, like I say, it's kind of aimed at cancer in general, and then the parts that I can tailor to head and neck cancer specific, I've tried to do. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea. Okay. Shall I plow on, Chris? Can you still hear me okay?
I can, yeah. And if people have any questions as you go, I think we can just get them. So if people want to ask any questions, please feel free to ask them as we go through the presentation. Thank you.
Can we just chip in with a suggestion, Chris?
Yeah, go on.
If Grace turns her camera off,
yeah, So we
She'll
just shout them
reduce the
out.
bandwidth and increase the bandwidth for the sound.
Perfect. Look at that. IT experts. Thank
Okay. Good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, let's give that a whirl. Thanks, guys. So okay, so like I say, this is aimed at cancer generally, and I'll try to tailor it a little bit as sort of where I can to head and neck specific. Remit is a little bit more narrow when you're going through active treatment for obvious reasons. In terms of during treatment, so the key aims that a nutritionist would be looking at, the principles of support would be these three. So supporting the efficacy of treatment. So sort of generally speaking, you know, cancer treatments are trying to either halt at the very least, if not get rid of cancer cells and tumours and tumour growth. So nutrition goes about it in a very different way, but is trying to achieve the same thing. So trying to not make the environment one in which cancer can do, you know, can thrive or can do better. So we'd try to do that, and I'll go into more detail shortly. We'd also look to try and reduce side effects where possible. So side effects of any treatments, but also side effects of food and fatigue. You know, it's all those other symptoms that people may experience.
Yes.
And then the other thing we'd look to do is to improve, equip the body with the tools it needs. So what I mean by that is its nutrients. So it's a bit of a silly analogy, but you know, we've got a car, and for it to drive, we need to make sure we've got 4 tyres on, that they've got the right tread, the right fuel in.
Believe my drawers, 3 people already left.
So it says incorrect passcode.
So can everyone still hear me okay?
Yes. Sorry, people. Would you mind, would everybody mind putting themselves onto mute? Because I think there's a bit of background noise going on there. And it does sound as if Grace has got a great connection. That's great. Thank you. Carry on, Grace. Off you go.
Oh, mute.
Real, thank you. So providing the body with the tools it needs to heal. What I'm saying there is, and this applies to every person, every medical condition, and every sort of health goal. That's the nutrients, and that's what I'm talking about there. So, you know, it's like not putting fuel in the car and expecting it to run. So that's a generic thing that we, you know, like I say, applies to everybody. In terms of how we can do this, I already mentioned briefly about, you know, trying to promote this environment that makes it a bit more difficult for cancer to thrive and survive. And what I mean by that, the 3 things that we know cancer cells particularly like. So one of those is an acidic environment. So we want to alkalize the body. So that's essentially, if you can picture the pH scale from 0 or 1 to say 14, 7 is neutral, like water. Anything less than 7 is acidic, and anything above 7 is alkaline. The further we can get it away from acidic and up into alkaline, the more difficult it is for the cancer cells to progress, to develop, to grow, and keep multiplying. So we want to do that, and the way in which we would do that is reducing sugar, because that makes the body sick, and eating alkalizing food. So vegetables, you know, whole foods, fiber, things like that. Sugar is also the fuel source. Glucose is the fuel source for one of the fuel sources for cancer cells. So again, by doing that, we're cutting off another one of its legs or pillars, if you like. So we want to alkalize the body. We want to cut off cancer's fuel sources as we can, so reducing that sugar intake. And we also want to oxygenate the body. So again, so we want to do the opposite, which is more oxygen in the body. So whether that's through exercise for those that can, deep breathing exercises are a really good way of doing that. You know, you're getting more oxygen in, and things like sleeping with the window open at night if it's safe to, all really good ways. It's a similar thread, but one of the things we would want to do is reduce inflammation. So obviously we would do that through food. We know that inflammation drives cancer. So again, we want to be looking at the foods that are going to be anti-inflammatory. So so that could be, that's vegetables, whole grains, fibre. Again, we've mentioned that, you know, good quality proteins, but it's also about avoiding, you know, I've got these symptoms, whether it was cancer or otherwise. If someone had a very inflammatory diet, we would look at trying to make some simple swaps, maybe in sort of week 1, week 2, and then build from there. So rice for brown rice, for instance, lower inflammation, or they're going to be actively anti-inflammatory. So healthy fats, omega-3, turmeric, things like that, ginger, you know, anti-inflammatory foods. We need to bring that down. We also would want to look at immune function. So in a healthy immune system that was functioning optimally, you know, everybody at some point will have cancer cells circulating, and that's quite normal. The idea being the immune system goes along, spots them, T cells, B cells, they go along and they identify. If that's not happening properly, or it's not happening sort of quickly enough or effectively enough, unfortunately they can develop, and then we end up with cancer. So of course we want to support immune function. And I've put a note there, I don't know if you can see the slide still. So it says gut health. That's because 70% of our immune system's in the gut. So if somebody's gut is impaired in their gut health, which we're talking mouth all the way through to the other end, if their gut health is impaired, which I'm yet to see anybody in clinic come with optimal gut health, so it affects virtually everybody at varying degrees, then their immune system's automatically going to be impaired. So, you know, clearly by improving gut health, we can help immune function.
Can
And
I just
actually there I've
interrupt you
done there
there?
about
Sorry.
providing the tools. So that's increasing in, yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Grace. I think the slide that we can see is still on slide 1. I don't know if you've moved it on your screen or not, but we can only see slide 1.
Oh, yes, I have.
You have, okay, that's
Oh.
probably,
Let me stop sharing and reshare, because mine is showing slide 5. How bizarre.
that's probably a bandwidth issue,
I
isn't
wonder
it?
why it's done that. Okay, let me
Yeah.
stop there and then just reshare and see if that, yeah, could be. Share, let me reshare. Can you guys see slide 5 now? How can we do this?
No, I can't. Yep, yes, can now. How can we do this, it says?
Great. Okay, perfect. So, yeah, so the bottom point on that slide, this is the one, what I'm referring to is the equipping the body, you know, giving the body the tools it needs to heal. So nutrients. So we want to look at nutrient dense food. So nutrient dense and calorie dense aren't the same thing, of course. So I'm Chris, through discussions with Chris Curtis, head and neck cancer in particular, there can be quite profound weight loss. I understand that it's quite difficult to eat for some people to swallow. So with that in mind, we'd want to do, yes, we want calorie dense, that either weight gain or at least maintaining, but also we want nutrient status there. We want the nutrient quality of the food as well. You know, we can have empty calories that are just going to keep that weight on, but the nutrients, which is the vitamins, the minerals, the proteins, the carbohydrates, the fats, that's all the stuff that keeps the car running. So if we don't have those, we can have quite profound impacts on our health. So the nutrients that we get from our food are essentially, you've probably all heard that the phrase that went around years ago, I think it was a TV program, you are what you eat. It's actually you are what you absorb. So I could give somebody in clinic the best diet for them at their, for their health concerns, for their health goals, for their, for their life stage and everything else. But if they're unable to digest it, break out food for various reasons, the quality of the diet doesn't matter. So that's why I said gut health is so important. We really have to make sure that the gut's working and we can get the benefit from our food. calories and nutrients. And those nutrients are, without them, we can't make any process in the body happen. So whether that's, growing fingernails and toenails, whether that's energy production, whether that's the immune function, nothing can happen without the right nutrients. So of course people have enough nutrients to function, but not optimally. So that's where we come into this, if there's any deficiencies.
So Grace, there's a question that has come into the chat. Can I just put that to you? So if I've understood it right, I think the question is around a lot of people, when they have head and neck cancer therapies, tend to lose a lot of weight. So it's a question about getting calories into people. And I think if I've understood the question correctly, it's about, well, we'll eat whatever we can get hold of because we need to eat food. And I guess what you're saying is you're trying to make it as nutritionally optimal as best it can be. So is there like an issue around the type of calories and the type of nutrition that people need to have when they're just trying to get enough calories into them because they find it difficult to just eat? What do you think?
The short answer is yes, but I think, really more complicated than that. If somebody's losing significant amounts of weight, maybe their taste buds have changed in the sense that then things don't taste very nice anymore, or they have no appetite, they feel lousy. Clearly there's a toss-up between, okay, this would be the ideal, it's feasible, and that's where we're working closely with somebody comes in to its own, what's the lifestyle, how are they feeling day to day, what particular treatment are they having, treatment started, for instance, because it's different for everybody, isn't it? So it's very much about assessing where they are, what's feasible for that individuals with, like you say, with the swallowing or things like that. And just try to blend of both. So clearly we need the weight gain and the high calorie foods, but possibly there should be ways to get more nutrients in as well if we can.
Yeah, because if I could just follow that up, because obviously we've all, while we've been under treatment, had sessions with the dietitians, haven't we? So, they tend to be fairly closely monitoring what we're all eating and all the rest of it. And I guess this is the bit afterwards, isn't it? When we've had the treatments and we're looking to look after ourselves when it comes to food and stuff like that. So have you got any particular views on the dry mouth and the swallowing areas, Grace?
Again, generally speaking, because I'd have to know each individual's, medications and therapies before I would be able to suggest, to suggest anything in particular. But with the mouth that gets ulcers that I've read about symptoms before treatment and during treatment, and the lack of the saliva production, there's a couple of treatments that we know support the mucosal lining in particular. So that's that lining that's being.
Yeah, unfortunately, Grace, you keep cutting out. Can you hear me? Stephen, I can see that you've got your hand up. When we get back in contact with Grace, then I'll. Yeah. Yeah, sorry, Grace. I think you've gone to.
There that we could do, glute healing as well, which.
Hey Chris, it's Pauline, Stephen's partner.
Yeah, hi. just hang on a sec. We'll try and get Grace back
Yeah,
online to get you to ask your question.
Yeah,
Grace,
so
can you hear me? Grace?
Yes, I've it kicked me out and brought me back in. Can everybody hear me now?
Yeah. Do you know what, Grace? Perhaps let's not put the slides on. Let's just carry on talking, as it were. We've got a question from
Pauline.
Pauline.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carry on. Ask your question.
Well, it's not really.
Yeah.
It's not really a question. It's just something that may be helpful. I agree with everything
Yeah,
Grace
ask
is
away.
saying about gut health and about getting the right stuff into the person who's had the cancer. Stephen has a very, very dry mouth. He has no saliva at all. And he's on a liquid diet, and it is very, very difficult. But the best gadget in the whole world is a soup maker. And just bung all your vegetables in it with some pulses. And you've got something that's fairly nutritious. Well, it is nutritious, and it's something he can eat. And it's got all the right vitamins and not all of them in one soup, but lots of the right vitamins and lots of the right other things in, because he can't manage any fish or any meat at all because of the fibres, even when everything's been liquidized. So things like a stew, he can't manage if it's got any meat in at all. So replace the meat with various pulses, beans and peas, lentils, all that kind of stuff, and just stick it all in the soup. And that's pretty much what he's living on. And we are managing now to maintain his weight. It has been difficult. And another thing he can manage is a mashed banana, which again, there's plenty of calories in a banana. So just using whole milk instead of skim milk or semi-skim milk. And that way we know he's getting everything he needs. And it is working, and that's quite simple, really.
From me on that one, because I'm also struggling to maintain. So I like your soup idea.
Yeah, that sounds great.
But I've lost 4 kilos this week, not through lack of trying, because I'm in the middle of my treatment. I'm just not hungry. So the soups are lovely. And my friend did me a really nice vegetable soup with pulses in it and everything. I could eat about 4 spoonfuls. It's not the hurting that's eating, it's my stomach. My stomach can't take it with the chemotherapy and the daily radiotherapy. And that's where I'm struggling at the moment. I love what Grace is saying for me in a month's time. But so today for my tea, I have had a trifle. And that's what my dietitian recommended me to buy on my way home today. So I had a trifle because it's the highest calories in the smallest amount of food, and that's what I'm trying to cope with at the moment.
Why don't you try asking them for some Ensures or some other liquid meal replacement?
I
Steve
got
calls back some of those.
And they make me feel sick.
Oh God.
Stuck between a rock and a hard place at the moment. So I can manage one meal replacement a day. What was the other one?
When I had chemotherapy, it made me feel very, very sick. I got ginger tea, that helped.
Oh, no, that's worth a try, because I can do green tea with lemon, and I can chew chewing gum while putting one of them horrible drinks down my tube.
You could always try one of them horrible drinks with melted ice cream or milk. You don't have to have them just on their own. Is that even worse? Oh, sorry. But certainly ginger is good for sickness.
I'll try something with ginger. I'll try some ginger tea. It can't not help.
No,
and I've only maintained this weight for 3 weeks, and then I can go on to what Grace is saying. But thank you very much for that. That was useful.
Okay.
No,
I'm going to go back to Stephen.
Yeah, that's good. Just before I hand back to Grace, we've got a question from Rebecca. If you want to just come off mute, please.
Okay.
There you go. I know you're not Rebecca, but that's what it says on the
Hi,
screen.
Rebecca.
And you're still on mute, by the way. Not quite there. Still on mute. You came off and then you went back on mute. That's it. No. Yes. No. Try again. Whatever you touch it again. But then that's it. Now talk.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It's not Rebecca. It's John.
Hi, John. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right. Yeah. it's not so much a question, it's just observations. I mean, really, as some other people have said this evening as well, most of us, I'm sure, will eat what we can actually manage, what we can tolerate. It's very, you know, with the dry mouth, things either irritate, you can't have them at all, and so on, and also consistency, like the lady was saying about textures of meat and such like that. I can't eat hardly any meat. The only meat I can eat really is either very fatty lamb or corned beef. But I don't, you know, I have to mix it all, make it all up like a stew type thing, and not quite liquidize it, but put it through a food processor or similar, and so on. But interestingly, the lady was saying about putting on weight. I put on weight primarily by having a concoction of the mashed banana, like was suggested, with Greek yogurt and a little bit of ice cream and cream, and I also use some caramel syrup, you know, like coffee syrups and that sort of thing. And I had that every day. I still do actually, and that put my weight up quite a lot. But I'm sure most of us know what we should be ingesting from you know, a health point of view. It's really a question of how you can actually do it, because you can be able to tolerate it. So I think sharing ideas of what we can all eat and how we can actually eat it is going to be very beneficial, in addition to Grace's presentation this evening. That's
Yeah,
it.
no, thank you very much. Thank you. And before I hand over to Grace, Alan, I think you need to come off mute, please.
Yeah, Grace, when I had my treatment, when I first came on it, all I could eat was just ambrosia rice and peaches. Would you recommend that that's a good starting point?
Did you say, Alan, that was during treatment?
When finishing my treatment, all I could manage to get down was ambrosia rice and peaches. Would that fit your bill?
From what I'm hearing from everyone, with what, sorry?
Okay. The other thing is answering something that
With milk, did you say?
John has just mentioned. When it comes to meats, you've got to be a bit more flexible. For instance, chicken sounds as though it should be easy to eat. Very, very hard. If you try chicken thighs,
that's what I do. Yeah,
go down.
I do.
And the same with lamb. You can't eat beef because it just chews and it goes nowhere. But if you try a fatty meat like lamb, that goes down. And those are the sort of tips we really could do with Grace, of helping us finding out what foods we can actually physically eat. Please.
Yeah, Grace. So there's some real practical feedback from people in the group.
I think it's one of those.
Can't hear him there. Can you hear her?
Okay, Grace, are you there?
Can you hear me, Chris? I only caught him.
Yeah, it's still not a good connection.
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Carry on.
Speaking, they can't hear us.
Grace, I can't hear you at all now.
Yeah, I was just saying, Chris, I think it's one of those. I think what I'm hearing from everybody is something for self. So, is that any better?
Not really, no,
Hi,
to be
Chris,
honest.
can you hear me now?
Yeah, it's sort of intermittent. No, you've gone again.
I think it's my internet, Chris. It's I'm having to
Yeah.
hotspot from my phone, and it mustn't be a good connection at all.
Oh no, you've
Yeah,
probably been
yeah,
paid. Hotspot from a phone is not good enough, is it?
no. Right, okay. Tell you what we'll do, Grace, because you know we can't really hear properly what you have to say. I think it's probably a good point to just sort of stop your presentation right there. But what we will do is we'll go back into the group and get more feedback as to how people have handled their food issues. So if you want to stay on and listen and maybe put some comments into the chat from what people are saying, that might be a better way to do this, make it an easier session on everybody, if that's all right. So yeah, so I'll kick off now, because I hated the 40 sips and everything like that. I thought it was just terrible, and I tried my best to get off those things as quickly as possible, so I did, and my taste buds changed. So the type of food that I was eating, what I used to like before, I didn't. So I've now got a different range of food that I like. And one of the biggest sort of changes was that I used to like a glass of red wine, but I don't like that now. So I can only drink rosé. So hence the glass of rosé that I happen to have with me here tonight. So I think, you know, find the alternatives is the big message from me. So go out there and find the alternatives. So what other issues have people had online in terms of eating and the food that they have had to change over the years since they finished their therapy? Karen from the Mouth Foundation, can I ask you, do you have any thoughts on this? You want to come off mute?
Sorry, say that again. I wasn't very clear.
Yeah. So I was just wondering from your perspective, because you're part of the Mouth Foundation as well, aren't you? So what sort of issues and comments do you come across from people that you talk to when it comes to trying to find the right sort of food to eat?
I think it's kind of knowledge, isn't it? It depends what sort of dietitian people have had in their hospital experience. Not enough information about how the effects are going to affect people. So there's a lot of people with dry mouth.
Yeah.
And finding products to help as well. But we've had Justin Harding, who is a dental hygienist and clinical ambassador at the Mouth Cancer Foundation, and she hosts the Monday night meetings and is able to give information to patients that are coming on. I just think that patients aren't actually being listened to very much, and it's a case of once you've had your cancer operation and your treatment, it's bye-bye. You have to get on with it. And I agree, it's all about trying to be as healthy and nutritious as possible. However, if you can't manage those foods, like me, I can't eat fruit anymore at all. I think it's incredibly hard to maintain a nutritious and healthy diet when you can't swallow food. I have lived, the only way I can keep my weight on, and I'm a very small build, is by tiramisu, trifles, and puddings with custard. I do eat lots of pasta and lasagna and foods with lots of gravy, and I've learned it's not socially acceptable. Because of issues I have with my teeth now, I have to tip my head to one side so food doesn't touch that side. But I have learned a knack of swallowing small bites of food whole, so I don't have to chew it.
Okay, yeah.
But I find lots of patients I know are on pureed food.
Yeah.
And that's how I get the consistency right. Eating out becomes a problem. Finding menus when you're out and about. Oh God, it just goes on and on. But nutrition is hard for a lot of people. And I can't give loads of advice because I'm in the best position to give advice because I'm on a really rubbish diet.
Well, I think that, you know, what we're hearing tonight is that people are working it out for themselves, aren't they?
Yeah.
And I think, you know, that's the advantage of hearing other people's stories, because you think, well, actually, I've not tried ginger tea or whatever, you know, and maybe that would work for me. So it really is a case of, you know, you've got to try it yourselves, haven't you?
You have. It depends what flavours work with you. I used to love lemon and ginger tea, but I can't manage ginger now. Any strong spices like that irritate my mouth so much it's not worth it. So I'm jealous.
Yeah. Thank you, Cam. Can I hand over to Andrew Gaylor? I think you want to come off mute.
Can you hear
got
me?
a comment. Yeah, I can. Yeah.
I'm down in London, so I'm in a head and neck cancer support group at UCH in London, where I've had my treatment. And I've had very similar conversations to what you've been saying tonight. There are almost as many different ways of coping with it as there are patients with it. We've all got to work out our individual path. But what I did over the last few, I had my original treatment 7 years ago, so I've sort of gradually been building back. And I don't know, some of you are sort of in the early stages, but it's incredible. I would say even in the last couple of years, I've seen improvements in eating. So never get up that things might get better. But I kept a log of all the things I could manage at different stages. And I remember being on 40 SIP and all the rest of it. And I put together a little booklet, which Chris Curtis has very kindly published on the Swallows website. It looks like, well, if I can get it back. That. And you can get it on the Swallows website. It's an ebook. And I should put together some different ideas. So there might be 1 or 2 ideas there that some people might find helpful. My other plea would be, if anybody's got some good ideas, and I made note of some tonight, if you could channel them through to me somehow. I'm hoping to sort of keep it updated, because the more you live with this, the more you learn.
Yeah, very true. I guess if you want to put your email address into the chat, that's probably the easiest way for people to get in contact with you.
Right, I'll do that now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's fascinating, isn't it? So we're all working it out for ourselves. I think that's the theme from tonight. Anybody else want to share how they've handled their food journey? Yeah, John, isn't it? Yes, please. Yeah, come off mute there. Thank you.
Have I done it?
You are. Yeah, that's it.
Okay, good success this time.
That's it.
Yeah, it's incredible, really, what actually happens. You know, to your mouth after having all this radiotherapy that charges. I don't know about chemo, but I should, you know, radiotherapy. All my life, I've always been very much a savoury food person. I hardly consumed any sugar. And I want salamis and stinking cheeses and all that sort of thing, and red wine and everything really. I never had a dessert after a meal. I'd always have cheese and what have you. And then after all the radiation, it was a complete opposite, complete reverse. I can't tolerate strongly flavored things like that anymore. And certainly at the beginning, the only stuff I could eat was incredibly sweet. I have porridge for breakfast, and I have 5 teaspoonfuls of sugar with it. Whereas before, years ago, if I had porridge, I'd have it with salt. I never had sugar in tea. And now, then I went on, I was drinking a cup of tea with 3 sugars. Now it's 1, but it's still, I know it's not a good thing to consume all this sugar, but it's the only way I can tolerate anything and have any chance of any semblance of pleasure with what I eat, because almost everything that I consume, I don't enjoy it. I just do it because I have to. But things the gentleman, was it Andrew, was saying that 7 years later things started getting a little bit better and what have you. So I can only live in hope. But at the moment I just eat slop basically. I used to enjoy red wine. I drink dry cider and lager and all that sort of thing. I can't touch it. If I put anything like that in my mouth, instantly it explodes in my mouth. It's like putting acid in your mouth. It's dreadful. I can't manage it at all. And well-meaning people say, "Oh, come on, just try some of this. Just try some of this." It's a very smooth wine. It's a sweet wine. I put it in. It's like putting battery acid in. It's terrible.
Good grief.
Yeah, it is. It's terrible. So not only can I not really enjoy my foods or eat the way I used to, I can't even have a drink either. But it is about experimentation. And
yeah, I think so.
I think really, I count myself as fortunate really, because I used to be a chef. I understand about nutrition. I understand about how to substitute foods and so on. So I was quite fortunate really. After an awful lot of experimentation, I came up with Bailey's with a drop of Irish whiskey and my old friend, the caramel syrup, and top it up with water and plenty of ice. And I can tolerate that. But
well, that sounds like a fabulous idea to me.
yeah.
Can I just say, as John's wife, that
Yeah.
I'm in total admiration at how he's dealt with it, really, because I think being a chef and being so inventive, I don't know how he would have survived without those skills, because he's always been the main person who cooked in the family and everything.
Still am.
And he still does. But I think in a way that kind of keeps him going and gives him something to, so yeah, I'm in total admiration, isn't it, really, for what you've had to go through and,
And I will say,
and you are so good at creating different meals and things. So I think sharing ideas,
Yeah.
menus and things or meals is a good idea, isn't it?
I will certainly be emailing Andrew with some ideas and so on and suggestions.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome, mate. You're welcome. Anyway.
Yeah, no, do that. Yeah, because I mean, we've clearly heard, haven't we, this evening, that it's an individual journey, but I think it's good for people to hear that as well, because you're not on your own. There are other people out there who feel the same, and one size does not fit all. So you carry on with your Baileys and with your concoction there. That sounds like a fascinating experiment to me. So I might have a go at that tonight a bit later, and
do so. Yeah,
see what happens there. So one of the other things in Worcestershire now, one of the people who used to come to the Worcestershire group got involved with the NHS locally, and they produced a restaurant card. And this is a little card that you can put into your wallet, and hand over to the chef at the restaurant. And it says on the card that this patient has been through head and neck cancer surgery or head and neck cancer treatment and may need a child's portion, may need extra gravy or juice or sauce with their meal, words to that effect, to actually sort of help communicate that they're not just being greedy or they're being difficult, that they've been through a medical procedure, and it's to help to sort of educate the restaurant and the chef in the restaurant that there's people out there who need different ways to have their meals presented. So I just mentioned that because, you know, it's exactly what you've been saying. As a chef, you know, before you had this treatment, if you had somebody in your restaurant saying, can I have some more sauce? You might think that they're just being greedy, but in actual fact, they need that in order to be able to consume the food.
Yeah.
Just a thought there, if anybody's got any contact locally with the NHS to get one of these restaurant cars made.
Do you know about it in Wales? Can you ask them, John?
No, I don't know. This is
oh, sorry, we're still in here. Yeah, because we live in Wales, so
yeah,
it might be worth it.
I think the initiative that this restaurateur or the chef in the restaurant has taken is very good. But yes, I think really it should be something that was rolled out nationally, really.
Yeah. Okay, question from Joe or Andrew, and then over to Andrew after that. So do you want to go first? Yeah, Andrew.
Things. Firstly, as far as I know, Chris Curtis is looking into the possibility of such a card through Swallows.
Okay.
Whenever we go to a restaurant, and we always look at the menus where we can in advance and work out what Joe will be able to have. But I make a point of, Joe's not confident with the talking in such a situation, although she should be, because she does really well. But I make a point of telling them why, because so few people have heard of head and neck cancer. So if you tell them why you need extra sauce or mash instead of chips or whatever, then you're getting that message across. But one of the biggest issues we've found is when you go abroad, which we have got to the point now where we are doing so again, it's difficult enough explaining that situation in a restaurant in this country. But if you're in Spain or France and you're not particularly fluent in that language, it's very, very difficult. And if you're in an Italian restaurant in France where they only speak Italian, it's very, very difficult indeed. So the solution we came up with to that was that using the powers of is it Google Translate or whatever, to put the message onto Joe's phone in English and then transfer it or translate it, sorry, into whatever language we might need, and then just show them the phone. And it does work.
Fabulous. Really good idea. Thank you. Andrew, the other Andrew, can you come off mute and
well, I can't really add much to what Andrew's just said because he said it all. It's absolutely brilliant. But I'll just say that I haven't heard about the card before, which is interesting. But when I'm going to somewhere to eat, I always start by mentioning the cancer word and then explaining what the problem is. And I've never had a negative reaction to it. They've always so I tried to get them on my side rather than sort of feel that I'm being awkward. And they've gone out of their way to bring in extra jugs of gravy and custard and even a cup of milk. I found a cup of milk is an awful lot more better lubricant than a glass of water. So I would just say, you know, don't the card sounds a brilliant idea, but don't wait for it. But I do mention the card, your cancer, because a couple of my friends in the support group in London had bad experiences when they were asking for extra gravy and so on, but they hadn't explained why. And I think they just put the backs of the waiters up. But I've always found the restaurant sort of can't help enough, and then I always make sure I really thank them afterwards, and it helps you get through, especially when you need, like I do, to you got to check out the menu before you go to make sure that there is something you can eat. I often find that at least there's more vegetarian food available these days, and having gone through all the meat and fish and crossed them all out, at least you're left with something now.
That's some really good advice there, guys. Yeah, really good advice. I think let's not be shy. You know, we've been through a difficult journey, come out the other end, as it were. And if you're able to go to a restaurant, don't be shy about explaining why you need your extra sauces. I think, yeah, let's do that. Let's do that. Thank you. Grace, can I come back to you? I don't know whether your signal's improved at all. You got any additional comments to make? Shall we see if we can hear from you?
Hi, Chris. Can you hear me?
Yeah, go on.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
I was just going to say, because the connection's so poor, I've just been trying to answer the questions in the chat.
Okay.
Yeah, I've just been trying to answer the questions in the chat, Chris, because it's so poor connection. So if anybody has any more and they want to put them in, I'll hang around and answer them.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Grace. That's good. Right. Right. So we've got a planning book. We've got a restaurant card. We've had stories from people who have their own individual ways of finding the food they can eat and the changes that the head and neck cancer therapies have made to people. So it's been quite fascinating, really. Any other comments from people on nutrition and food? No? Okay.
Just one quick one. An electric soup maker is brilliant.
Yes, somebody else mentioned that earlier, didn't they? I think.
Yeah. If you're having to depend a lot on soup, and they're not expensive, and they do make a big difference.
Yeah. There is a company, isn't there? Is it Wiltshire Farm Foods, who do different ranges of pureed food? They came to one of the Worcestershire meetings before the pandemic, and they had a range of different purees. So the consistencies were different. So if you need a completely pureed meal, they can do that. And if you want a partially pureed meal, they can do that. And if you wanted a meal that was hardly pureed at all, they can do that as well. And they were quite reasonably priced, and they're all prepared foods. So all you need to do is put them into the oven or put them into the microwave. And again, they do a whole range of sweet and savoury. So again, it's a case of trying to find the ones that work for you. So maybe that's an alternative for people if you haven't thought of that before. So that's Wiltshire Farm Foods. I think they're across the country.
Can I just add, and as you said this is something my daughter said to me at the weekend because I really was struggling. My granddaughter, 5 months old and just weaning, or just coming up to it. And my daughter said, well, why don't you try some of the pouches that are for babies? So this is possibly one for Grace. One, would that be doing me any favours if it's at least getting something good inside me? And two, has anyone else resorted to baby food? Yeah.
Can I just come in quickly there? I don't know if anybody else has had the same help with the swallowing from the hospitals post-treatment, who was going back in the speech and therapy department, I think it was, but they put a camera down my throat and videoed what happened with various things. It started with milk, then they did rice pudding or yogurt, and they moved to a dry biscuit, which obviously I thought I was going to die on because I couldn't swallow it. But they showed the video back, the side that got the heavier dose of radiation, the muscles had lost a lot of the strength in the swallowing. And they basically set me tasks of eating a dry biscuit trying to every day. And it's been an enormous help. It took months before I could get rid of the open sores on my jawbone, but once they eventually closed on that side, I was able to work on it a bit better. And I still do have issues with eating anything very dry. But I tried a pizza for the first time 2 nights ago, and I got through most of it. Admittedly, drinking large amounts of I think it's a cream soda I'm now on, but anything to just help me swallow it. But you know, I have sort of moved on from the general slop to most things do have a gravy or a sauce. But I'm doing a lot better than I was when I wasn't sort of doing the exercises. So I think that was something that was really useful, and I'm waiting to go back and see them and see if there's any change in the muscle when they repeat the test, because I definitely feel stronger. I'm able to swallow better things than I was. I eat a cooked breakfast now on a weekend, which is I didn't think that was ever going to happen, to be honest. But I went from, somebody else was saying, from savoury to sweet. Well, I was always a sweet person, and I loved dessert. So now I have roly-poly custard every day for lunch after my main meal, and I have steamed, sticky toffee pudding and cream at night. And on the coronation, they were giving away the cream cakes cheap at Sainsbury's. So I had 9 cream cakes in 2 days. It's great. Nobody's telling me off for it. But I've still lost 6 stone. I'm 6'8" and I was 22 stone. I'm now 16 stone. So it's
Wow.
Say, why are you losing so much weight? And I'm like, I'm eating like a pig. It's just so it's whatever. I'm just still trying though. But that was a big help to me. So
fabulous. Thank you for your story there. And I see that in answer to the baby food question, Grace has put into the chat that usually probably worth a shot. Check the ingredients. I think that's probably a good message there as well, isn't it? They usually have less nasties in them for babies, so nothing wrong with baby food. That's cool. Right, coming up to 8 o'clock. So does anybody else have anything else to say? Any other questions? So Joe and Andrew, oh yeah, Fiona, yep. Want to come off mute, Fiona?
Yeah, just to echo what everybody's been saying, particularly in sort of the earlier days. I went through those various stages of, it felt like being a baby, really learning to eat again. It just felt that, it was all part of a very long process. And looking back now, 2 years on, I can eat really well again. My tastes have completely changed. I used to be a sweet fiend, and now I'm savoury. So my taste did completely change with the radiotherapy. But I did was it Tony that was saying she felt sick with the milky Fortisips? I didn't like them either. So I went, my dietitian was very good at the hospital, and she got me prescribed a different brand, and they were more like real milkshakes, and I really enjoyed them. So I got a substitute. I can't remember the name of them. I'll try and remember the name. I can't remember it, but they came in big tubs, and I think they were a lot more expensive than the Fortisips. My doctor wasn't too happy about it, but they made such a difference. And then I went on to the Wiltshire Foods, and I went through the various grades of those as well. So, I'm just really identifying, and for me, it was very much a slow process. And there was also the bit about other people desperate to see me eat something all the time, and I felt a lot of pressure from family that when I couldn't eat and didn't want to, that they were really upset, that I wouldn't try, and
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, and like it's so nice actually. It's like having a little coffee evening with where we're all the same and you can sit and talk to each other like this. Whereas when you go to a restaurant, if I go with my partner, he sometimes forgets that I still need to be a bit careful. I still need lots of sauce, and I still need lots of gravy and stuff. And I actually enjoy that now. That's how I eat my food, and I enjoy it now. I don't say I've got cancer, I've had cancer anymore. What I just say is I struggle a bit with eating, can I have some extra gravy, please? Oh, certainly, madam, so you know, so it feels like a journey, an individual journey, but there are common elements, and I can really share with everybody that's spoken, that's struggling. But like some have said, it does get better. It's different, but it gets better. That's been my experience.
Yeah,
So
thank
just
you very much, Fiona. Andrew, if you wanted to come in there. You're on mute. You have to come off mute.
Sorry, I'm off mute now, I think. John, when you were talking, you mentioned your speech and language therapist. And I don't know if they've given you sort of tongue swallowing exercises and sticking your tongue between your teeth. But I did those for a few years. And then when I improved a bit, I stopped doing them. And then I needed a checkup last autumn. And they said it would really help if I carried on doing them. So I wasn't sort of really aware of that. So just in case anybody's in the same situation, to say I'm in my 8th year afterwards now, keep on going with them because they might help to keep things going, but especially if you've had radiotherapy on top of everything else.
Thank you, Andrew. Right, okay, so I think it's probably time to close the meeting. So Joe and Andrew, any final thoughts from you guys?
Final thoughts. How long have you got, Chris? Just a few things spring to mind from what people have been saying. One of which I've cast in my mind back quite a long time now. But as many of you know, Jo was immobile when she was had surgery because she managed to fall over and break her ankle as well. So I was doing all of the cooking, and whilst I don't mind cooking, I wouldn't class myself as an expert at all. But I'd seen in the hospital how the first few meals they brought out, they pureed the whole lot, but they didn't puree it together. So they pureed the veg, and they pureed the potato, and they pureed whatever else was. And they sort of reconstituted it so that at a glance, it looked like it was what it originally had been before it had been pureed to turn into something different from what it originally was, if you follow that sentence at all. And so I tried doing that. And I got very good at shaping piles of vegetables so they look like the original vegetable and so forth. I've stopped doing that now, apart from, this is very soppy, whenever I cook, I always do mashed potato. It doesn't matter what it is, because she prefers mashed potato. So if we have a curry, mashed potato. Doesn't matter what it is. But it takes me far longer than it takes Jo to do it. I do the mashed potato with extra milk and extra butter in it, well, marge. Mash it up so it's really soft. Then I put it on the plate first, and I shape it into a heart.
Ways to eat.
So she gets a heart-shaped mash. So there you go. And I've never admitted that before. Our kids don't know that.
You softy.
I know, it's good though, isn't it?
Well done. Okay.
When to bring it through, she's not surprised.
That's a good note to actually. Oh no, John, you wanted to come in. You want to come off mute? You're on mute still. There you go.
Okay now.
Yeah.
Thank you, Andrew, about the speech therapy exercises and so on. I've been given one basically, and they sign me off, and so that's it. Bye, get on with it. I'm not going to get a review or anything like that. But anyway, that isn't what I wanted to say. But another big issue I find is when you have actually managed to eat something. Immediately I have to go and rinse my mouth out because bits of food debris get lodged everywhere, particularly on the side, because I had half my tongue removed, and on that side there's like a pocket down there, and it all gets in there, as well as various other places, and because I can't manipulate my tongue as I would, as I should be able to, and my mouth is so dry, I just can't dislodge it at all. So I have to immediately go off to the bathroom, and I can be in there for 5 minutes, swilling and swishing and making horrible noises and so on, in order to get rid of it. and I can't do it with cold water. It has to be at least warm water, in fact, quite very warm. So sometimes when we go out, my wife and I, we go out and so on, I can manage to take some food with me. I've got a little sort of heater thing that plugs into the car. So I cook the food in advance and then put it in this heater, and so I can do that. But then I go and find, you know, like a toilet, a public toilet or something, and there's no bloody hot water. So, oh dear, it's a real ordeal. And also, of course, you don't really want to be there in public in front of everybody else doing all this sleuthing and sloshing. So I find that's an issue as well. I don't know if anybody else has that experience.
Yeah, I do as well. So I've got a pair of tweezers. I go into the bathroom at the end of every day, and I pick out the bits that I haven't been able to dislodge by brushing my teeth or gargling or anything like that. So yeah,
right.
you're not on your own. You're not on your own at all. So you've got to do what you've got to do.
Sorry,
I like the tweezer idea.
The dental surgeon suggested at the hospital for me to get one of those water picks. It's like
Yeah.
Very good. I use
found
one
that
every
brilliant.
night.
Yeah.
There we are. There we
You
are.
can use something a bit cheaper, which is just a syringe with a curved end, which then you can get at pockets in your mouth where you've got tissue which is damaged and traps food. So
that's good.
That works pretty well. I mean, well, it's a much cheaper option, obviously, just
There
a
we are.
syringe.
There we
But
are.
you can get ones with quite long, slightly curved end.
Yeah,
Where'd you
that's
get
good.
them from?
That's good. Yeah.
Where'd
I'm
you
just
get
trying to
them
think
from?
where we got them from. I think it was through her dental practice. Certainly, the sort of speech therapy people weren't particularly helpful on that, nor were the eating side of things. But I think she'd looked online, Googled it, found it.
I know that the RNIB, the Royal National Institute for the Blind, for many years have marketed what they call a household syringe, which is quite a large syringe. It's probably, I don't know, maybe about 50 mil or something like that. And it has a piece of tubing on the end of it, a flexible tubing, so you can direct it wherever you want, really. It's quite long, so you hold the syringe in one hand and depress the plunger, and the flexible tube, you can just direct that to wherever you want it. So, but I never thought of that before, so thanks very much for that.
He used to be a rehab worker for the blind as well as being a chef.
Yeah.
That's why it suddenly come to him, so that's helpful.
Yeah, from a professional life of helping other people with all their problems.
There you go. There you go. Okay, guys, I'm going to draw the meeting to a close. Thank you very much for all of your inputs tonight. Thank you to Grace. I think you're still there. So we'll try and get you back on again when you've got a better connection, Grace. I think that's probably the best way to deal with that. But you've put your email address into the chat. So if anybody wants to contact you, you've got that in the chat. So thank you to Joe and Andrew for being my IT support, because that was a bit iffy getting started as well. So much obliged for that. Thank you. And apologies for the Health Watch Worcestershire sign, but that was the only way that I could get online properly tonight. So there we go.
Thank you, Chris.
No,
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everybody. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
Bye. Bye.
That's what I start. Oh.
Switch off.
Hello, Arthur.
I'm speaking.
Hello, all.
Hello.
Hi.
Sorry I didn't get here sooner. It's schedule's
all right.
been very crazy lately.
You've just come in as the meeting was closing.
Oh, all right. I thought I'd
But
say
it's
hi to
lovely to see
everybody.
you, and it
A
adds
little
one
tied
onto
up
the
with
attendance
stuff.
numbers.
Well, hello, everybody.
How are you?
I'm doing well. Busy. Work's been
Good.
really busy. Yeah, good busy.
Good.
Good, busy's good.
Yeah.
You better stay very quick.
Thought I'd
Yeah.
check in. Any pressing issues?
Now, Chris isn't with us tonight, Chris Curtis. He's starting a meeting or setting up the first meeting in somewhere in Cornwall tonight.
Oh,
nice.
right. Oh, it wasn't Chris then, John.
No, it was Chris Byrne. It's not Chris Curtis.
Ah, that's what confused us.
So many,
Yeah.
so
'Cause
many
we
Chris's.
knew anyway. Yeah, we knew anyway, because it's only like John's second meeting. So
Right. And you're in
Yeah, I know.
Wales, aren't you?
yeah, we're not originally from Wales. John's actually Cornish.
Oh, right.
We were living in the West Midlands for 30 years, and then we moved here. And then just at the end of COVID is when John got diagnosed with his tongue cancer.
Mm. Yeah.
Is there any way for people to meet up in person? You know, is there any
It
sort of like,
depends.
is there like a national thing that could have a national meeting?
There are 2 points to make on that. There are some where people are in more urban areas.
Hmm.
They sometimes have physical meetings. Before COVID, it was all physical meetings. But the problem with that was that if you're in a rural area, as we are, Carol, who's there with Samsung SM T500. Hi, Carol.
Oh,
is one of our Lincolnshire group. We're very, very spread out. So we try to do, as you may be in Wales too. So we try to do a mixture of meeting, but not necessarily the whole group because the area is so big. And online meetings for our area, but on a different night from the national meeting, so we can attend the national meeting as well. But in some urban areas, then there are physical meetings too. But if you become aware of a patient who attends Swallows meetings, who is near to you, then meeting up physically can be really helpful.
Yeah.
And of course, there's the conference as well. There's a conference, Swallows conference in November.
All right.
To which everybody's invited.
Where's that?
It's in Torquay.
Torquay. Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, not from our point of view.
We could do one of these deals where you get the Crimble things, you know, and where they do a pre-Christmas cheap deal in a hotel in Torquay or
that
something.
would be good. Yeah, but it's a heck of a long way for us.
Yeah.
That's true.
John's
Arthur's
got
gone.
a daughter who lives in Lincoln, in Boston.
Oh yeah.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah,
We're not far
Boston's
from
about
there.
18 miles from us.
So where are you then?
We're near Horncastle.
Oh yeah. So we're like directly right over one side of the country to the other, because we're actually in the furthest north you can be in Anglesey.
In Wales.
Oh,
in
gosh,
Wales.
wow.
Right, yeah.
We couldn't be much further apart then, could we?
Yeah, but we're quite lucky here, because in Anglesey you're not too far from things, because we can get onto the A55 and into Manchester or Liverpool quite easily, really. So it's not too bad. But yeah, it's I mean, John was fortunate really that they did the surgery within Wales, because they do the surgery at a hospital called Clanllwyd, which is about 50, I say near, it's about 50 miles from here, but that's not long when you live in the rural area.
No,
it's not that far.
It's the North Wales Cancer Centre.
Yeah, the North Wales Cancer Centre. So yeah, they're quite lucky.
I had to go to Nottingham for mine, and that's 60, 70
That's
miles.
probably worse, isn't it?
Yeah.
Journey-wise, yeah. I mean, we can be in Clanllwyd in less than an hour.
Nottingham, not that far.
Yeah. Well, from Lincoln, Lincolnshire, they are.
Lincoln, yeah. Not that, but not that far from Nottingham.
Nottingham took for us, it was with the traffic about 2.5 hours.
Really?
So while Joe was there, I just went and stayed locally, so
Yeah.
that I could be in to support her. So we just abandoned the house for 10 days and stayed there. So
I had
distance
no
is an issue.
visitors.
Yeah, John was had his surgery in COVID, so
No visitors.
Yeah, we were before COVID.
yeah, so there was no visitors. He was only in a week, 2 days in intensive care, and then he was home. But I think, talking about the eating tonight, the worst thing for John has been that pre the radiotherapy, despite having half his tongue removed and he's had an implant from his leg, he was actually okay. He was doing really well. Like
Yeah.
3-4 weeks in, you know, he was almost eating mashable, you know, his taste, you know, it's all the radiotherapy that has done all the damage, really.
Yeah.
And you know, that's the hard thing.
Yeah.
And they don't
I
really
was-
tell you, do they?
No, I was the same. I was eating mash food
we'd make
and
quite good
soft
progress,
food.
yeah.
And then the chemo and radiotherapy just poof, back to square one. And it's the chewing and the swallowing and but
You want to come in, Carol?
Yeah, I agree with Joe. It's the treatment, because I've lost my taste, I've lost my saliva. It's the treatment, it's not the actual cancer. You know, in the first part of it's fine, and then when they put the tube in, that's when everything seems to become a problem from then onwards.
Have you had mouth cancer then?
I had tonsil cancer.
Oh, right.
Then it spread into my neck. But so I didn't have any surgery as such. I had my tonsils out, and then they found it in my neck. So I didn't have any.
But having your tonsils out is pretty horrific.
It is when you're older.
Yeah, I had mine out. I actually had a growth on my tonsils, but it was benign. But they took them out anyway.
Yeah.
So I was lucky. But yeah, it was pretty horrific.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just the damage from the radiotherapy is.
Yeah.
Did you have a PEG then, or what they call a
rig?
Yeah, they call it a rig, don't they?
Yeah, it was in the stomach. Yeah, a rig. Yeah, I had my hearing in here.
John refused his. But I think in a way that made him persevere more with the eating.
yeah,
Maybe. Yeah.
that was how I broke my ankle. It was the pain from the rig. I was having it fitted in hospital. I got up, fainted from the pain, and broke my ankle. So I then had to go back and have an operation. So I was in hospital, for 18 days.
Another 18 days, hospital an hour away.
What, because of the rig?
Yeah.
Because of the pain, she fainted because she was in pain.
And every time they tried to get me out of bed for my ankle, the rig was so painful, I fainted again. And they wouldn't let me home because then they thought it was my heart, but it wasn't. And it was awful. So then I was going to chemo and radiotherapy with my foot in plaster, unable to put any weight on it. It was fun.
Well, I've had a broken ankle, I've had my tonsils removed, but you know, it's John that's had the mouth cancer and everything. And yeah, it's just, I can't imagine what it must be like to have all of them at once.
Well, it's one of those things, isn't it? But how have you coped though? Because this group is for caregivers as well. So I always come along, and I haven't had cancer, but I have had cancer. So how about you?
Well, I think for us, because what you're saying about the rig, we had a daughter that was severely disabled from birth, and she ended up being tube fed. They don't call it a rig, they call it, that's why I use the word PEG. They only call it a rig because it's the radiologist doing it rather than it coming from a gastro point of view. So we had all that, and she passed away in 2011, and then we moved to Anglesey thinking we were going to sort of like have a bit of a retirement. And John had also been through 3 lots of spinal surgery. And yeah, it's just completely changed our lives. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's just hard, isn't it? Because what can you do? You can't help somebody with all their eating things. There's nothing like, you just feel very helpless, I think.
And to an extent, you adapt your own lifestyle too, because if there's a difficulty in going out for a meal, that difficulty is there for both of you, not for one of you, if you're in the situation we're in. And you've got to both take that on, not be one, if you're in a caregiver situation. And that's why I think it's important that caregivers do come to the meeting as well, because it's a joint issue, isn't it? I mean, it isn't for everybody, I know, but
yeah.
I mean, I live on poached eggs on toast. That's my go-to. Poached eggs on toast.
I can manage poached eggs and baked beans.
That's Johnny. Come round. He's talking now. He's going to show you what he's been doing. No, go on. Show
Yeah,
them.
interesting you say about poached eggs.
I have poached eggs, loads of butter on the toast to make it soggy, baked beans and brown sauce because I can taste
Oh.
sauce something else.
Yeah, I had to do something similar. I recently progressed to baked beans, poached egg, and butter and bread. Not bread and butter, butter and bread. That's,
I use the waffles, they're quite good.
The what, sorry?
I put my poached eggs on potato waffles with the baked beans because they're nice and soft.
I've not tried them. I put I use real butter because of the calories.
oh yeah, I meant butter, yeah.
Yeah.
I meant butter, nothing else, yeah.
Thought about the potato waffles, that'd be something else.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all trial and error. Trial and
Yeah,
error.
yeah. But I just swallow the baked beans. I can't chew them. I just at best I can maybe crush some of them against the roof of my mouth. But
I can sort of chew them, but the skin of the baked bean gets trapped in my teeth.
Yes, yes, yeah.
And it traps all around my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. But as has been said earlier.
Somebody bought me a silver toothpick for my birthday, just gone, and it's an absolute godsend.
That's a nice present, nice thoughtful present.
Well, yeah, because I've got it on a long chain around my neck, and it doesn't. It looks like it just looks
like a bit of glamorous jewelry or something. Yeah.
Or a cocaine spoon.
Cocaine spoon. What's he like?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think like Joe was saying, he was asking me, but I think also to some extent, John is very fatigued as well. I don't know how, sorry, Andrew, I don't know how Joe is, or how the rest of you are, but John is very, very fatigued. I mean, he's still 18 months since the radiotherapy. I don't know how long yours was, Joe.
Mine's 4 years ago. I think it takes a long time to get over it. You have to be patient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It will get better, but it takes a very long time. I think you'd agree, Arthur, wouldn't you?
Yes, definitely. I mean, some of the, you can hear me, right? Some of the radiation effects take up to 2 years to go away. I mean, before we say that they're permanent. In other words, you know, some of them are permanent, unfortunately, but things like sense of taste, dryness in the mouth, those are things that sometimes take up to 2 years before we say this is as good as it's going to get.
Yeah.
Do you think it could get better after 2 years, Arthur?
I'd say it's pretty rare, at least in terms of taste. I think that sometimes with saliva, we'll find when we see someone who's 2 years out that there are things they haven't tried. So there's a medication called Saligen, pilocarpine, which can
that's
actually.
what John's. That's really weird. You've said that.
Yeah,
because
so
we
some people
discovered
haven't
it
been-
by chance, and we've asked his GP to prescribe it, and they have done. And it is starting to make a difference. But you know, we would never have known. We just came across it by Googling something, and it just came up by chance.
Yeah, so you know, that's the kind of thing that sometimes we'll mention it to someone even a couple of years out, and they'll say, "Oh, I was never on that. We just started someone on it the other day who's 3 years out." You know, and we're trying to see how that works. There's actually some data that shows that acupuncture helps with saliva production. So that's something we sign our patients up for. We have a few acupuncturists.
Are you in the US then?
Yeah, I'm in Boston.
Are you a doctor?
Yes, I'm an ear, nose, and throat doctor.
Right. Okay. So I didn't know who you were because we're new to the.
Yeah, my schedule has changed recently, so usually I log on to these for the whole meeting, but we've had some conflicts with that.
That's nice of you.
Time.
Yeah.
So because over here it's what's it, 3:30 now, so it's right in the middle of my patient session. So but yeah, so you know, we've definitely seen that. You know, on the flip side, there are some radiation changes that occur over time that surprisingly you know, even years out can start to rear their ugly head. So most of them are muscular. So somebody can be 5 years out from radiation, and in fact, even longer, they can start to get some stiffness in the neck muscles that is even worse than what they originally had. So, you know, we'll have patients, we have to have go back to the physical therapist or the physiotherapist to try to get their neck a little looser. Sometimes people get their what we call trismus, where the jaw doesn't open as well. And even years later, we may have to connect them again with speech and swallowing. And then the worst thing is some people's swallowing actually gets worse over time. So I have patients where I have to take them to the operating room and dilate their esophagus because they've gotten some radiation related strictures. And that's years down the line. These are often radiation. You know, as you said, the surgery can be a tough hit up front. You know, there's pain, there's a lot of changes that occur, but gradually you tend to get better from surgery. Radiation, unfortunately, has these continued side effects that even years later can start to come up. And it's one of the reasons why we see our patients in our head and neck multidisciplinary clinic, and we really see them for life. You know, we see people 5, 7, 10 years out, and sometimes they'll bring up some new issues that, including swallowing issues that they weren't having initially afterwards, or just for a brief time afterwards.
It's interesting because here, I think
smell. I had my sweet taste, and I was doing really great till about November, and then all of a sudden I put some chocolate in my mouth, and it was like poison. And I've never been able to eat it since. I cannot stand any chocolate anywhere near my mouth. And certain foods, if I taste, I have this awful taste all day long, and I can't get rid of it. But my ENT doctor has said this is it now, because I'm coming up to 2 years. September is 2 years, and he said this is it now.
Probably where it's going to be.
It's hard.
It is really
definitely
hard.
I
think what's interesting from what you're saying, Arthur, is that you're looking at your patients more long term as a multidisciplinary thing, and I don't think that happens in the UK. We're very much an acute service because of the NHS. I don't know whether the others would agree with that. You're not getting that multidisciplinary input, are you, after they've done the treatment, basically?
No, we found that the surgeon that did ours was absolutely fantastic, superb. He did a wonderful job, but afterwards they're stretched. And afterwards, there was somebody else coming along who'd got a similar problem and what have you. And that person, quite rightly, was the priority. And some of the things that have helped afterwards, we've found out through these groups, which is why these groups are so important. And we found out from other people. Chris Byrne, who was hosting the meeting before, was fantastic for us, because when we first went into COVID, the meetings all went online. Before that, they'd all been physical. So if you were in a rural area, you were struggling, really. There was a very, very small Lincolnshire group, but it only covered a very small part of Lincolnshire. And Joe put into chat what the operation was that she'd had. And Chris, to say, has anybody else had similar? And Chris Byrne came back with what he'd had, and it was very similar. And he arranged to have a meeting with us, just us and him. And he gave us so many useful tips, because he was a bit ahead of us, but we still carry on picking up tips. You'll find that the same things crop up again and again and again. So dry mouth is a regular one, but then it's an important one as well, isn't it? But we've found these groups so helpful and so useful. And now we look at it from a different point of view, and to an extent we're 4 years down the line. But nevertheless, there are positives. Joe still will achieve something, even now after 4 years, that she hadn't done before. I mean, it might not be a medical thing, but it might be something that she manages to eat or drink that she hadn't before. So there are still benchmarks against which we can see progress. But because we've gone through it all, and because we've been to so many of these meetings now, there's a lot that we've heard of that we can share with other people, and we think it's important that we do.
Yeah, definitely.
Not just think to ourselves, well, that's gone, it's finished. Phew, we didn't like it, let's move on. And we think we all owe it to everybody else to do that.
Yeah, definitely. It's been helpful to me, to be honest.
Good. Well, yes, caregivers as well. Carol, you were going to say?
I said the Ectomelts, I'd never heard of them until Joe mentioned them. You put them in my mouth all the time.
What's that? The
Ectomelts. They're lozenges that you somebody else put them on to me. You put them in stick on your gum at night It's XYLI.
XYLI.
Carol's got the box, look.
I can't see, I don't think. Hang on a minute.
XYLI and then melt.
Speak and then it'll come up, because when you speak, oh yeah, XI melt.
XYLI melts.
Yeah.
And you, I think you can get them on Amazon, but you can also get them from a company called Dental Direct. They're not on prescription.
You see, John finds the Dr. Thingy Mints, Dr. Hef's
yes.
really helpful. Believe it or not, they've gone completely. You can't order them anywhere. They're out of stock everywhere. I don't know why.
You'll get them directly from Dr. Hef.
Yeah, I used to get mine direct.
That's what we do, but they're saying out of stock there.
Those XL melt things. I tried those. It didn't work for
They
me.
didn't work for John, apparently, the XL men things.
Arthur's heard of Xylem melts because they come from America, I think.
Yeah, we use them a lot.
In my mouth at all.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't work.
Yeah, we get them from Amazon.
Got the doctor in.
Yeah, I spoke to my consultant.
No, that's all right. I don't know.
Prescribe them. He said, get your doctor. The consultant said, get your doctor to prescribe them. I went to.
They're not available on the NHS, are they?
They're not on the list. They're not on the list.
No.
Yeah, we don't prescribe them either, but I mean, we recommend them very highly, but they're just available over the counter. Yeah, they're great. I mean, again, a lot of things don't work for everybody, but they work for a lot of people.
Yeah, they
that's
work
right.
for me. Yeah.
Yeah, we've recommended them to a lot of people, and that without exception, they've all come back and said they're right, that they work really well. But it's not going to be everybody, as you've just pointed out.
Right.
Well, John came in, he's in the kitchen at the moment, so he's like, oh, he's got a very bad spinal problem as well, which has nothing to do with all his other problems. So he doesn't like to sit for too long, and yeah.
Well, I have to run, guys, so I'm gonna say goodbye.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Arthur. Nice to meet you.
Bye.
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 Bye.